You had 73 million people voting for Donald J. Trump, and all of these people right now are being gaslit by the media. There was once upon a time where the media would tell the people's story, right? So right now we've just had the media telling their own version of events, not speaking to any Americans who are presenting tons of evidence. They send it to me of their own ballots not being cast, not being counted. People showing you that their dead relatives have voted in this election. This was one of the most insane elections that we've ever had. Mind you, the media, the very same media who prepped us all year saying that this election, we're not going to figure out the results. It's going to be unlike any election we've ever had because of COVID-19 and mail-in ballots. It's going to take weeks and weeks and weeks for us to be able to count. Now, that same exact media is saying, well, never mind, Trump just needs to concede. And we had an election where we all went to bed at 2 a.m. Trump was winning by a lot. And then suddenly we woke up and we were told that the exact opposite had happened. They stopped counting, and suddenly there was a massive dump of ballots and Joe Biden was in the lead. Everything about this feels fraudulent. And to say, oh, you should just certify the election because the media is ready to move on, which is what we're really getting at. The media is ready to move on. The media has been ready to move on from Trump, honestly, since he won in 2016. What we have realized is that these errors that seem to be happening, these accidental errors where they transfer votes from Trump to Joe Biden, only seem to be happening one way. So whether you want to say it was human error, which is what the Dominion Voting Systems is arguing at this point in America, that it was all human error and something happened and someone pressed the wrong button, fine. But the results are fraudulent to the American people. You cannot just move on. In Michigan, I'm saying that the votes were changed. 6,000 people who voted for Donald J. Trump got changed to Joe Biden. So that happened in America, and they've come out and they said that was a human who pressed the wrong button. The Dominion Voting System is saying it was a human error, and Sidney Powell and Trump's campaign is saying it was not a human error, that the system was designed to be able to do this. And this is what he's talking about when Sidney Powell is saying that they have more evidence that they're willing to present. And rather than allow them and afford them the right to do this, the entire mainstream media is saying, just move on. It's not here. Why not just allow them? This is what our system allows for. Allow the due process to go through. Why are we trying to sweep this under the rug and move on and say, well, we don't have any evidence yet, so it needs to be closed? Again, this is the same media that told us this election was going to take months and months and months to count, including Joe Biden himself. Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton boldly said that Joe Biden, if he lost, should not concede. So I don't understand how the media can then just flip and say, you know what, the exact opposite, and gaslight all of the American people who they've been conditioning to believe that this election was going to take months to transform. To call. When 73 million people do not trust the election process and do not trust the votes, and it was done in a year where you transformed the election process. You guys don't do this in the UK. You guys don't calculate and do an electronic system. They don't do this in Canada. They forced this. No. They forced this in America because of COVID-19.
Will Donald Trump run again, do you think?
I don't know. That's a good question. I would hope he would run again. And this is going to be a bad election result no matter what, because as you're seeing in recent polling, there are 73 million people who do not believe that this election was executed in good faith. And we have been saying this since long before the election. I've been saying this since March. The idea of transforming the entire election system in 1 year and expecting states to be able to do with this, and having so many people's voices censored, right? People that are speaking out about their own election fraud stories are right now being censored by the big tech. So perhaps he will run. If he did, obviously I would support him. I think he should. And I'll tell you what is fraudulent is all of the mainstream media and the tech people calling President Biden, calling former Vice President Biden the president-elect. That is incorrect. It is wrong language. He should be called a presidential candidate. This election has not been called by the state. GOP has completely changed. It's no longer the establishment Republican Party. And when I say that, I'm talking about the John McCain Republican Party. It's completely transformed over the last 4 years for the better. It's become more inclusive, which you can see by looking at the early exit polling numbers. Hispanics largely, I think 36% voted for Donald J. Trump this election. Black women doubled their support for Donald Trump. Black men voted 18% for Trump. So despite all of the rhetoric of trying to smear and libel him as a racist, the party has actually become incredibly more inclusive because Donald J. Trump was a more cultural figure. And what I mean by that is that he was able to communicate his message in a more effective way, and he felt more attainable to the American people. And I get that he's a boisterous, busty billionaire from New York, but he does, when he speaks to people, he's very much a blue collar and able to relate to them in a different way. People have always asked me, am I going to run? Am I going to jump in and throw my hat in the ring? And I always say the same thing Trump said 20 years ago. If I felt that my country needed me, and that I had to do it, I would. I have no desires to do it. I don't think it's a fun job, when in fact it's an incredibly difficult job to lead a country.
Am I confident that there was fraud? Yes. But can we prove it? And can we prove it also within the time limit? There's a clock ticking, as we all know, on this. But I'm thinking back to the election itself and trying to account for the very bizarre way in which this election was fought really on both sides. Looking back, it's almost weird that the Democrats appear hardly to have campaigned at all. Biden was not only holed up, but showed virtually no interest in campaigning. We hardly saw Kamala Harris either.
Over the past 6 weeks, Joe Biden has been running his presidential campaign from his basement.
So looking back, it's almost as if the Republicans focused obsessively on the campaign. Campaign rallies, campaign ads, organizing this and organizing that, while the Democrats focused on the election. In other words, the Democrats focused on, let's litigate to make sure we get those mail-in ballots out. Let's organize the counting of the ballots so that we are basically in control of the system, particularly in the swing states. Let's employ an army of lawyers to anticipate potential court challenges, so we'll be ready when it comes to that. Now, the irony is that Trump, very early on, seemed very aware that there was a problem with the election counting.
We have to be very careful with the ballots. The ballots, that's a whole big scam. We want to make sure the election is honest, and I'm not sure that it can be.
That there was a sort of vote rigging project underway. And yet I'm not sure what the Republicans did to anticipate that. Where was our army of lawyers? Where was all our lawsuits calling for poll watchers and people to be no more than 6 feet away and signature verification and all the things we're talking about now?
I don't work here! Move your hand!
We focused on the campaign and they focused on the election. Now the question is, did they do shenanigans? I'm pretty confident they did. Will they get away with it? I certainly hope not.